HSBC reported a $4 billion loss in the third quarter due to subprime loans. The rich got rich quick, victims of inflated markets, redlining, targeting, and corrupt pricing. Globalized banking without moral values is triggering a worldwide economic tsunami. The water came in at the bottom of the ship, but now those on the deck and in the captain's table are jumping for cover. Globalization. Infotechnology, iPods, internet, and text messaging can either spread hope or fear and repression. Globalization. In the end, there's a need for environmental security. I remember the accident at Chernobyl. At first, the journalists said the Russians have a problem. That is to say that they are less capable than we are. But then the wind blew, and Europe had a problem. The wind kept blowing. The cows in Washington State had a problem. The wind is still blowing in this one world order. Any war can unravel world security and progress in the Stride Global quilt. The Iraq War, built on the quicksand of misinformation and lies. We're worse off 4 years later. Saddam was contained. Now we're losing lives and money and honor. Peace is eluding us. Our moral authority is near bankrupt. War is expanding in Afghanistan. Iran is unstable. Pakistan is increasingly unstable, with a yet-to-be-known impact on India. We must take a diplomatic initiative and seek resolution to the crisis, I repeat, in Pakistan. Last, I want to appeal to you today to go forward by hope and not backwards by fear. Increasingly in this perilous tension between globalization, perils and promises, our heroes are often political fear manipulators, smart people who become corrupt, our generals who promise us security through a bomb or a gun. The fact is, Gandhi was right. The British generals were wrong. Mandela was right. The South African military was wrong. Dr. King was right. The Southern governors were wrong. Jesus was right. Rome was wrong. I appeal to you today, from this pillar of democracy and great spiritual strength and character, let's take the world to another level. Somebody has to make sense in this world. Somebody has to go counterculture. Global technology and capital must not remain unaccountable. It must not go off our moral imperatives. Brother King will often say, vanity asks the question, is it popular? Politics asks the question, will it work? Can I win? Morality and conscience asks the question, is it right? And that's the haunting question, is it right? It may not be popular nor politic, but our moral compass must not be compromised. Use globalization to end poverty and illiteracy, end the AIDS epidemic. Use globalization to provide drinkable water and end hunger, to overcome fear and polarization. Use our diplomatic strength to get the Middle East talks back on track. Use our strength and end the futility of trying to isolate Iran and Syria. In conclusion, at the center of struggle, we are freer, but increasingly less equal and more threatened. We need global peace, global racial justice, global gender equality, global children's and labor rights, and global health care. A new global vision. The struggle between dark and light continues. How can you forget the tragic pain and paralyzing fear of the dark morning of 9/11 in New York? Terrorists hit New York City and Washington and Pennsylvania. The innocent were destroyed. But let's not forget 9/11 1906, when Gandhi emerged with new power in his hands, declaring Satyagraha as a lasting, enduring truth and source of joy. No cowardly act of violence can put out the light of Gandhi's insight and commitment to truth. 9/11 has a dark side, but it also has a bright side. We must see the bright side. The morning doth shine and the morning doth come. The continuing light and hope may not come from 10 Downing Street. It may not come from Moscow or the White House. It may come from some stable in Jerusalem, some manger where some at-risk child is born. It may come from some remote village in India on the Ganges River. It may come from some Martin King in southern Alabama, or some Mandela on Robbins Island. Or it may come from some John on the Isle of Patmos, or some Gandhi or Nehru or some Bhutto. We're not sure where it will come from, but God has worked in marvelous ways down through the years. Of those who sought to do his perfect will, but serving the least of these, John of Patmos saw something we would well embrace today. He saw a new heaven and a new earth. The old one passed away. That God has promised to wipe away our tears, to bring beauty from the ashes. That God, that truth of many names, in whatever name, empowers those on the ground to get up again. We fall down sometimes. We get up again because the ground is no place for a champion. So let us break the modern shackles, the barriers that keep humanity from recognizing its full potential. We need not reinvent the wheel. We have the keys to the kingdom, the use of soul force. It is the power of satyagraha. It is in soul force. We can overcome our tendency toward racial and religious bigotry. Let's try something different tonight. We've tried war. It's a time-tested failure. Let's try something different. Peace. Let's wipe out the sin and not the sinner. We need each other. Let's heal the breach. Friend and foe are trapped in the same house. As fire rages and terror bombs explode and anger abounds, we need water, not gas and bullets. We need hope, not fear, love, not indifference. We have survived the party. Now let's do a greater and a more difficult thing. Let's live together as brothers and sisters and not perish apart as fools. Long live Nehru. Long live Gandhi. God bless India.
Thank you, Reverend Jesse Jackson, for one of the most inspiring and deeply felt speeches that we have had the privilege of hearing in this hall. You have pointed out to us that globalization can be a great blessing and also a great burden. And you have said that we have to move forward by hope and not backward by fear. I think that is the key. Abhaya, the lack of fear. In the Gita, the first guna, the first power is fearlessness. And that is what Gandhi had. And that is what Jawaharlal Nehru had. You remember when Winston Churchill, who was his sworn enemy, years later said to Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, he said, your brother had no hate and he had no fear. This is something which shows the primacy and the priority of the spiritual power within all of us. And that is what the Reverend Jesse Jackson, who himself is a preacher, a charismatic preacher, but somebody who is not limited by narrow walls of any particular denomination, but somebody who looks upon the whole human family as one, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Many religions, we were discussing yesterday, Ekam Sat Vipraha Bahuda Vadanti. The truth is one, the wise call it by many names. Yeah. And he was talking about this, and he was wondering how it was that the three wise men who were at Bethlehem when Jesus was born, whether they came from India, because India was a land of wisdom. That was where people turned for wisdom and for inspiration. And he has placed before us a stark picture, on the one hand, of the violence, the corruption, the fundamentalism, the fanaticism, the negativity that we find all around us today. And he has pointed out that what we need is a countervailing coalition for peace, for harmony, for welfare, for happiness, for emancipation of the poor and the uneducated and the illiterate. Because the great social revolution begun by Mahatma Gandhi and carried forward by Nelson Mandela and by Martin Luther King Jr. and the civil rights movement is what we are trying to do. It is an unfulfilled, unfinished revolution. And that is what we've been constantly stressing. And I notice that Sonia Ji, in every speech that she makes, she constantly mentions this. We are proud of our rates of growth, but as long as we still have millions who are below the poverty line, millions of children go to bed without one full meal a day, millions of families shiver in the monsoon, in the winter they are drenched in the monsoon, they suffer in the summer, they do not have adequate housing. At a time like this, we are in the midst of a very exciting crossroads. Humanity can move either towards disaster. As Arthur Koestler has said, we are a race programmed for self-destruction, or it can move towards evolution, as Sri Aurobindo, Teilhard de Chardin and other great evolutionary philosophers have taught us. So on this occasion, may I, on behalf of all of you, thank the Reverend Jesse Jackson for having given us a new inspiration, a new hope, for having brought back to us some of the flavor of Martin Luther King and the great civil rights movement that convulsed the United States, having brought once again to mind how important Gandhi's and Jawaharlal Nehru's philosophy is. We will get this speech printed, we will distribute it widely, Reverend, and we thank you very much for coming here. We hope that we should now see you here more frequently. On behalf of Sonia Gandhi and all the trustees, thank you very much. Good night. Presented to the Reverend Jesse Jackson by Srimati Sonia Gandhi.